Hello learners, I am Dr. Lakshmi, Associate Professor, School of Health Sciences, IGNOU, and your counselor for today's session on psychosexual development, that is Freudian concept. We will be taking two sessions on this unit. This is your unit for the course title Human Growth, Behavior and Counseling BSW 124, which is of 6 credit course. In this particular course, you will learn about male and female reproductive system, functioning. Further, this course focus on early, late stages of human growth, and which is included with biological, social, psychological, psychosexual development. So, dear learner, this Freudian concept will help you to learn the psychosexual development of individual. This session aims at helping you all to understand the key concept of the theory of psychosexual development proposed by Sigmund Freud. It includes concept of sexuality as understood by Freud, different stages of psychosexual development, fixation in different stages, and significance of psychosexual development for human personality. So, what all are the objectives? Just you can list down, or you can keep on record that after watching this video, you will be able to understand the concept of sexuality as understood by Freud, list out different stages of psychosexual development, describe the dynamics in each stage of development, explain the concept of fixation, like as per the development takes place, some of the behaviors get fixed, that you will understand the significance of each stage on development of human personality, and further you will be able to appreciate the psychodynamics theoretical framework in understanding human personality. So, let us start with knowing something about Freud. Freud, who has been called the father of psychiatry, is credited as a first to identify the development by stages. He considered the first 5 years of child's life to be the most important because he believed that an individual basic character has been formed by the age of 5. Further, Freud's personality theory can be conceptualized according to structure and dynamics of personality, topography of mind, and stages of personality development. To explain all this theory, the theory of psychosexual development, also known as the theory of libidinal development, is one of the earliest theories explaining how personality develops in human being. This theory owes its credence to the finding of Sigmund Freud clinical research. He did a research with the emotionally disturbed people. The theory of psychosexual development, however, is an integral part of psychodynamics personality theory proposed by Freud. So, to understand this theory, you will have to understand that Freud is often considered the first psychological theorist to have emphasized the developmental aspect of personality and the decisive role of early experiences during the infancy, childhood in laying down the basic character structure of adult person. Dear learner, here you have to understand that how we behave with the kids, how the family, how the other people primary caretaker behaves in the early childhood. The child learns that behavior and which becomes his or her behavior in her later adulthood. So, according to Freud, the individual passes through a series of dynamically differentiated developmental stages during the lifespan, which are characterized by distinct mode of functioning. We will be discussing this in a different stages. The theories proposes that misshape during different stages, especially during the early childhood, plays an important role in causing the psychological problems, including mental disorders. Based on his early research with emotionally disturbed person, Freud found that symptoms of internal problem during adulthood are related to the frustration of erotic instinct. Such frustration often occurs as early as the first year of life, continue throughout the entire childhood stage. So, he has focused on the different stages of childhood and various behavior. Freud was thus led to believe that children showed manifestations of sexual urges and that any theory of the personality must take infantile sexuality in account. Sexuality was earlier thought that it is only a adulthood behavior. No, Freud has emphasized that infantile sexuality is also there. And to make it more clear, he has given the Freud organized the structure of personality into three major components: the id, ego and superego. The id is the locus of instinctual derived, the pleasure principle. When id is dominating, that means the person is only focusing on the pleasure. Like, for example, a child is crying for the feed. If he just want that thing, if little more, like if the child, one or two toddlers are there, they are crying for the toffee, they are crying for anything, and parents becomes embarrassed sometime. So id is the one which is based on the pleasure principle. Present at birth, it endows the infant with instinctual derived that seek to satisfy need and achieve immediate gratification. Id derived behaviors are impulsive and may be irrational. Now, what is ego? The ego, also called the rational self or the reality principle. Like it is based, it gives some rational to the behavior, whether I should do it or not. Begin to develop between the age of 4 and 6 months. You see, when child is newborn, he has come out of the womb of the mother and he is crying for the breastfeed. He or she is hungry. When mother breastfeed the child or the newborn baby, then slowly child understand that my mother is there to fulfill that need of feed, and she will be there and she will timely do everything. So the child starts having that faith in the mother or the primary caregiver which are around to the kids at that particular age. So it starts from the age of 4 and 6 months. The ego experiences the reality of external world, adapts to it and responds to it. So as the ego develops and gains strength, it seeks to bring the influence of external world to bear upon the id. Child understand that my mother is there to breastfeed me, to take care of me, to take care when the child is in done the bedwetting, he or she cries. The mother immediately or a primary caregiver immediately changes that and make the child comfortable. So to subscribe the reality principle for the pleasure principle. So ego is based on pleasure principle, but it is rational. Then primary function of the ego is one of the mediator, that is to maintain harmony among the external world and the id and the superego. So what is superego? The superego is referred as a perfection principle. The superego, which develops between the age of 3 and 6 years, internalize that value and moral set forth for primary caregiver. Like at the age of 3, the child starts understanding, oh, this behavior is not socially accepted. He or she should not cry for anything and in front of gathering, or there are family rules which parents make, and child start understanding those. So that superego starts from the age of 3 to 6 years, derived out of system of rewards and punishment. The superego is composed of two major components, the ego ideal and the consciousness. When the child consistently rewarded for good behavior, self-esteem enhances and the behavior becomes the part of ego ideal, and that is it, the internalization as a part of his or her own value system. Child understand this is the socially accepted behavior. Consciousness is formed when the child is punished consistently for the bad behavior. We start developing the attitude in the child, the consciousness, oh, that you should feel guilty for your behavior. So child understand what is bad behavior, what is good behavior which is socially accepted. So what is considered morally right for and what is wrong, and he gets this feedback from his parents or in the from the society. Dear learners, why do we send our kids to the school? can't we teach ABCD and 1, 2, 3 at home? But still we send, because school is the organization where the child's behavior change takes place. Child learns how to follow the rules and regulation, how to respect others, how to be punctual, how to be in uniform, and what all the behavior change takes place. That is the first institution, is no matter family, but the another one is which is helping is a school. So that is why the child learns all this, like it is there, but he understand that what is right or wrong, because ego comes in function at the age of by the month 4 to 6 months, and by the age of 3 to 6 years the superego comes in action. So when moral and ethical principle even internalize, the ideal and values are disregarded, the consciousness generate a feeling of guilt with the individual. The superego is important in socialization of the individual because it assists the ego in the control of id impulses, because now child understand I cannot cry for the toffee like this, or if you talk about the sexual behaviors which in the adolescence age, when opposite sex attraction is there, if anyone wants to have like wants to hug anyone, they cannot do that is not a socially accepted behavior. So that pleasure seeking is dominated by ego and superego, and the person behaves which is socially accepted. No, I cannot do this. When superego becomes rigid and punitive, problem with low self-confidence and low self-esteem arises. So we have to keep balance in id, ego and superego. So here you can see the Frued theory of the personality. Id always say I want it now, I want it now, because it is a pleasure based on pleasure principle. Ego is saying I need to do a bit of planning to get it, because it is not a specific behavior. I need to do some planning for it. Rationalization is there. And superego is you can't have it. It is not right. So dear learners, I hope you understand id, ego and superego. So now let us come to the concept of sexuality. According to Freud, sex is the most important life instinct in an individual. According to him, the sex instinct is centered around the number of bodily needs that give rise to erotic wishes. Each of these wishes has its source in a different bodily region referred to as a erogenous zones. The erogenous zones is the part of skin or mucous membrane that is extremely sensitive to irritation, and which, when manipulated in a certain way, removes the irritation and produce pleasurable feeling and experiences. For example, the lips, mouth and the anal region, the sex organs are example of erogenous zones. Thus, sucking produces oral pleasure, elimination anal pleasure, and rubbing the genital is a genital pleasure. Then you can see how the Freud has conceptualized it. In brief, Freud regarded the sexual instinct as a psychophysiological process which has both mental and the physical manifestation. He used the term libido to refer to the force by which sexual instinct is represented in a mind. In essence, Freud used the term sexuality to refer to the erotic life of the individual. According to him, sexuality is not a matter of adult alone, but also infant. And he has made this clear in his different stages. It is all pervasive and covers all those activities and sensation that are pleasurable and afford sensual gratification. He noted that infants were capable of erotic activity from birth onward. The earliest manifestation of infantile sexuality arise in relation to bodily function such as feeding and elimination of body waste. So, of all the concept of Freud, the concept of he advanced with the regard to the erotic life of infant and young children aroused severe criticism from different corners, but he has emphasized that this is the main integral part of development during early childhood. psychosexual development stages. So Freud has given that personality development takes place through constant activation of life instinct, and sex being a most important life instinct in an individual, as we have discussed, it is a biological instinct which needs to be gratified. The earlier manifestation of sexuality arise in relation to bodily function, which are basically non-sexual, such as feeding, elimination of body waste. So Freud has tried to explain this in a different stages. With the advent of adolescence, the dynamics erupt again and then gradually settle down as an adolescent moves to the stage of adulthood. So he has explained that the first 5 years of the life are decisive for the formation of personality. Each stage of psychosexual development is identified in terms of mode of reaction of a particular zone of body. During first 18 months of life, then next is 3 years, further 18 months. So hence he has divided the life into the stages: oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage and latent stage, that we will discuss. Freud described formation of personality through 5 stages of psychosexual development. He placed much emphasis on first 5 years of life and believed that characteristics developed during these early years bore heavily on one's adaptation pattern and personality traits in adulthood. First stage is oral stage, from birth to 18 months. During the oral stage, behavior is directed by the id, as we have already discussed. Id is based on pleasure principle and the goal is immediate gratification of that need. The focus of energy is mouth, with behavior that includes sucking, chewing and biting. As you all know, at some age, like when the teething starts, the child starts chewing and after that he starts biting. So main focus is on gratification of oral need. The infant feels a sense of attachment and is unable to differentiate the self from the person who is providing the mothering. This includes feeling such as anxiety. So here, dear learners, you can understand this stage leads up to 18 months from the birth of child, and the principal source of pleasure derived by the child during this stage is that of sucking. Sucking involves both tactual stimulation of mouth as well as the swallowing. Later, when the teeth erupts, as we have discussed, the child start doing biting and chewing. Since the child primarily concerned about seeking pleasure, she or he needs immediate gratification of that need, and need of infant is seeking pleasure or is adequately met by sucking the breast of the mother, as an erotic drive is localized in mouth. So that is not a sexual behavior, but it is the erotic drive which is satisfied by sucking. Since gratification of the need at this stage depends on mother, she becomes the first love object for the child. Feeding at the mother breast is the most important activity both physiologically and psychologically for the young child. For this reason, the psychoanalysis refer to the period from birth to about 8 months as an oral sucking period. With the development of teeth, and child enters into the new stage of her development called oral biting stage. During the oral biting stage, the mode of deriving pleasure becomes modified. Its source are biting as well as sucking and swallowing. So it held that 2 modes of oral activity: sucking, swallowing and biting, chewing, which are the prototype of many later personality traits that develops. So here you can see that with the beginning of development of ego at the 4 to 6 months that we have already discussed, child start understanding that my mother is there to take care of me, my primary caregiver, my family members are there. So they understand. See, they do not cry unnecessarily, and infant starts view the self as a separate from mothering figure. A sense of security and ability to trust other is derived from the gratification of fulfilling basic need during this stage. Another stage is anal stage. Anal stage from 18 months to 3 years. The major tasks in this anal stage are gaining independence and control with a particular focus on excretory function. Because you see, up to the age of 18 months, child is if doing bed wetting, mother is or the primary caregiver are changing the clothes and putting the diapers. But at this stage, we start giving toilet training to our kids, because after this the child will be going to the school, and which is not a socially accepted behavior if you are just urinating like this. So, that we teach to our kids. So, Freud believed that the manner in which the parents and the other primary caregiver approach the task of toilet training may have a far reaching effect on the child's in terms of value and personality characteristics. For reaching effects of this behavior, pattern includes malevolence, cruelty or other destructive or disorganization and untidiness. Because if we are not teaching them, like when you want to go to the toilet, you have to use the toilet. After that you have to flush and you have to wash your hands, you have to control, you cannot just wet your clothes like this. The toilet training that is more permissive and accepting leads to become extroverted and productive and altruistic. So, child become very disciplined, that we will see in the fixation how this oral stage, how the behavior get fixed and what type of personality the child develops. In our next session we will see. So, let us see the another stage, anal stage we are discussing, as we have discussed that it starts when the child is around 1.5 years of its age. During initial part of anal stage, there is a pleasurable sensation of excretion, and later there is erotic stimulation of anal mucosa through retention of feces. You see, excretion and retention. This stage is divided into two sub-stages, the anal expulsive period and anal retention period. The anal expansive phase overlaps with the closing stage of oral period. Now, oral period is over. Here the mode of deriving pleasure for the child is expulsion of feces. If अगर उसने ठीक से यूरिन पास कर लिया, ठीक से उसने मोशन चला हो गया और उसके he or she starts getting pleasure. Again I am telling you, this pleasure is not a sexual behavior, but the pleasure is there. During the anal retention period, the child expected to accede to the demand of toilet training. The child has to learn to derive pleasure from retention or then expulsion. Depending upon the particular method of toilet training used by the mother and her feeling concern, defecation and consequences of toilet training have far-reaching effect upon the formation of specific personality. So, it is very important that we should give good toilet training to our kids. Now, next stage is phallic stage. It starts from 3 years to 6 years. In phallic stage, the focus of energy shifts to the genital area. Discovery of difference between gender results in a highlighted interest in a sexuality of self and others. Now, boy know he is a boy and girls also know she is a girl, because you see when baby born, nobody can differentiate, because only clothes are makes them differentiate, like is the baby wearing a frock, then she is a girl. If wearing a top and shirt and bottom, then it is a boy. Slowly when they grow adolescent, then that is body shape which is visible. But at this stage, at the age of 3, when they start understanding, they are boy, because once they are urinating or they understand ki they in the school also boys and girls differentiation they understood. So, how Freud has made this difference, he has made that Freud proposed that development of Oedipus complex and Electra complex occur during this stage. Oedipus complex is for boys and Electra complex is for females. In general also, Girls are they are more like fond of their fathers, they like their father more, and the boys, they love their mother more. So this is based on Freud. He has studied this. He described that as a child, unconscious desire to eliminate the parents of the same sex and to possess the parents of opposite sex for himself or herself. They select. Boy will say mama is mine, girl will say oh father loves me more. Guilt feeling results with the emergence of superego during these years. Resolution of this internal conflict occurs when the child develops a strong identification with the parents of same sex and parents' attitude, belief, value system, and sub used by the children. So here the Freud has very purposefully pointed out this, that the boys and the girls behave differently in this particular stage. Phallic stage, during this stage basics of sex can be seen, as we have discussed that boy understood that he is a boy and girls also knows that they are of different gender. Child's play with its genitals and relieves tension and derives pleasure. Erotic activity is initially linked both psychologically and physically with the activities and sensation associated with urination. Urination is an important activity as it helps the child to consolidate its gender, because the organs are different. The boy understands that he is a boy. Similarly, the girls understand she is a girl initially from the process of urination only. During the phallic stage, the development sexual feeling associated with the functioning of genital organs come into focus. The pleasure of playing with the genitals and the fantasy of life. The child set the stage of appearance of Oedipus and Electra complex in a boys and girls. The Oedipus complex is named after the Greek king of Thebes who killed his father and married to his mother. Oedipus complex consists of a sexual attachment for the parents of opposite sex, hostile feeling for the parents of same sex. The boy wants to possess his mother and removes his father. According to Electra complex, girls wants to possess her father and displace the mother. So these castration anxiety induces a repression of the sexual desire for the mother and hostile towards the father. It also helps to bring about identification with his father. By identifying with his father, the male child converts his erotic feeling for the mother into harmless affection for the mother. Oedipus complex seems to represent the climax of development of infantile sexuality. Electra complex, for the girls, the child exchanges her love object, the mother, for a new object, the father. She holds her mother responsible for this and starts hating her for having brought her into the world less equipped than a boy. She transfers her love to the father because he has the valued organ which she aspires to share with him. However, her love for the father is mixed with feeling of envy because he possesses what she lacks. So this is all Freudian concept, okay, in phallic stage. Now in next stage is latency stage. What he has conceptualized. This is from the age of 6 to 12 years. During the elementary school years, the focus changes from egocentric to more interest in a group activity. Now you see, at the age of 6, now they start making their peers. Girls enjoy playing with the girls, boys enjoy playing with the boys. Sexuality is not absent during this period, but remains obscure and imperceptible to others. The preference of homosexual child in this stage shows distinct preference of same sex relationship, even rejection of the opposite sex. They are more comfortable with the same sex between this latency stage. According to Freud, at the close of 5th year, infantile sexuality is gradually repressed, both because of fear of social consequences, because of realization of love object is unattainable. Here ego superego is functioning in their brain. So they are deciding what is right, what is wrong. So in latency stage, they start spending time with the same sex gender, like boys comfortable with boys. So during the period of about 5 to 6 years, the child is not consciously concerned with the sexual matters. At the literal meaning, the word latency stage, sexual urges are hidden during this stage. Child is active interest turned increasingly outward. During this period, the sexual urges are diverted into recreational, academic and social pursuits. They start doing extracurricular activity, they start playing group, they make the team, they start playing like cricket or even the kitchen game, and all the girls playing different separately, boys play separately. The child learns to behave in a society and acquires her ideal. Eroticism is manifested in the form of attachment to the parents and friend. Interest in an opposite sex is at the lowest ebb. The child spends all her energy to excel and prove herself or himself. Child's energy is diverted towards developing a sense of competence. During this stage of development, the child's sexual urges are subordinated to the intellectual pursuit. Psychoanalysis has very little to say about personality development following the phallic stage. However, does analysis of genital stage of development. So, in this latency stage, it is understood that the person is working on his or her own strengths. Next stage is genital stage. In this stage, the maturing of genital organs. In your other sessions also you have learned the development of reproductive organs, and once that development takes place, there are hormonal changes, and some hormones are and there is a behavior change is also there, and they start behaving because of all those hormones like opposite sex attraction, and they are more comfortable with their opposite sex, and they want to have that relationship. So in this, Freud has explained this in the genital stage from the age of 13 to 20 years. The focus is on relationship with the members of opposite sex and preparation of selecting mate. The development of sexual maturity evolves from self-gratification to behavior deemed to accepted level by societal norms. So here you can see in this stage it is totally different from latency stage. Latency stage was totally focused with the same gender group and focusing on the self-development. In this stage, the development focus is more on relationship with opposite sex. This stage begins with the onset of adolescence. During genital stage, sexual feeling appears with a new intensity and in more mature form. As a result, self-love of the child gets channelized into genuine heterosexual relationship. In latency, it was self-love. In genital, it was heterosexual relationship. Sexual attractions, socialization, group activity, vocational planning and preparation for marrying and raising a family begins to manifest. By the end of adolescence, these concerns become fairly well established, and the person becomes transformed from pleasure-seeking, self-loving infant into the reality-oriented, socialized adult. The principal biological function of the genital stage is that of reproduction. So you can see the Freud stages of psychosexual development from birth to 18 months. Which stage was that? Oral stage. And how it was like management of anxiety by using mouth and tongue, and child was like just satisfying and urging for the satisfying that need. Oral, that is why it is called oral stage. 18 to 3 months, that is anal stage. Control of muscles like urination and defecation, like when a child is start controlling it and he is enjoying it, that he is growing, he or she is growing. So this stage is called anal stage. Again I am saying this is they are not a sexual behavior, but still they are getting pleasure out of it. So Freud has tried to explain this, that pleasure, that infantile sexuality is available, and in the childhood also it was there. 3 to 6 year phallic stage, awareness of sex and genital. They know, boy know he's a boy, and girls just because the action of urination, because the organs are totally different. Then another stage is latency stage, that we have discussed, exhibition of latent sexual development and energy, because they are more focused for self development, and they are involving in more extracurricular activity. They are more spending time with their family, with mother, girls are spending with the mother, boys are spending with the father, and they are learning how to become socially accepted, and they are learning establishment of value and ethics also takes place majorly in this stage. Okay. Then in the genital stage, the sexual interest develop, because the adolescence period start and the different bodily organ changes takes place. So child starts developing that. So as a parent, as an individual, we have to learn how to control the emotions. Thus, even within the first year of some of the important characteristics of personality are established. So we have discussed till oral stage. In next session, we will be discussing the fixation in other stages of life.